Going to interview is my grandfather, who fought in World War II, and if you'd like to say a few words about yourself.
Well, I'm born in 1926. When Hitler came to power, I was 6, 1933. As I said once before, we were, as young high schoolers, drafted into the anti-aircraft batteries. And then later on in 1944, I was drafted into the Air Force. And in 1945, in January 45, we were, to use a simple word, we were made into infantry.
So the first question is, what was it like fighting for Hitler?
You don't fight for a person, because the Russians were very close to Germany. And then, of course, your duty is to, since you had to join the armed forces, it was conscription, so there's no choice to fight for a person.
You just kind of have to.
And it was just a question of defending.
Gotcha. Okay. So, I recall you saying before that you got shot in the war.
Yes.
When did you first realize that you had been shot?
At the instant you were falling down, because you're standing in the middle of a field. I was helping another young soldier. I was about 18, not quite, and he had trouble with operating a machine gun.
Yes.
He asked me, "Can you help me to fix this thing?" And I said, "Yes." And I fell over. I thought he had kicked me, for instance, you know, because everything goes poof. And then he was really scared, because he must have realized I was hit. But then I realized a burning sensation in my leg.
And you look down and
Which
you
comes
saw the
from
wound.
cauterizing, you know. So,
Yes.
you know, the bullet is hot, I suspected. So anyway, that's how you get wounded. Then you're looking for a hole in your pants, but I couldn't see a hole, because the bullet must have gone into my pants and tore it up, but I couldn't see anything. So then I hobbled back to the trenches, and then
you got treated. And
an
then
older sergeant told me, "Well, drop your pants and then let's have a look at your leg." And then, of course, I had a
big wound. Yes.
fair, yeah, like about the size of an egg.
Oh, jeez, that's big.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So the third question is, what kind of weapon did you carry?
Well, when I left the Air Force in Berlin, because I was not infantry, I was in the Air Force, to become a technical engineering type in the Air Force. Well, when the Russians were very close to Germany, we were all made into infantry. And so we then had to be collecting or be collected in a city a little ways from Berlin. And we were then given a rifle. And I said, "This is not even a German rifle, this is a French rifle." And I got 20 rounds of ammunition. And the man said, "Well, wherever you're going, there will be lots more French ammunition. I've never seen any other French ammunition from that time on." Of course, you have to ask this in the context of the time. The time was January 1945, and the war would be over at exactly this May 8th, 1945. So it was a question of just a few more months. So Germany did not have enough ammunition and
To last
rifles to equip the
whole army.
next generation
Yes.
to defend the country.
I see. Okay, so the next question is, it's kind of like a similar one to the first one, but did you agree with what you thought you were fighting for out there?
Well, you have to put yourself, I was about the same age as you are now, you have to put yourself into the position of a teenager who is very skeptical, of course, and in my case, and a lot of other people around me, we would be very sarcastic, because obviously all German cities by that time had almost been reduced to ashes.
Really?
And you know, the civilian population was was killed almost as much as soldiers at this stage of the war. And for instance, in one raid in Hamburg or Dresden, over 50,000 women and children died in one night, in one
Jeez.
attack. So out of that background, you have to take your own feelings nowadays, when you see a hurricane or other devastation through the country, except this would be a natural occurrence, whereas in my case, it was all very unnatural. And of course, I was way too young to see the political ramifications, except that this is not going to end well. And of course, then came, since it was a political organization, then came, of course, the jokes, political jokes.
About the situation?
About let's say, Adolf Hitler, for instance.
Yeah.
Abbreviations about it, and well, if you're not in the language, it's hard to explain sometimes, but they would call him Gröfatz, you know,
Yeah.
größter Führer aller Zeiten, you know, meaning the largest leader of all times, but you could quite easily see that this was all a joke,
Oh,
a
not
very
true.
sad joke,
Yeah.
mind you.
I see. Well, thank you for your time for me to ask you these questions. And if there's anything else you want to say about it, go ahead.
You're more than welcome. The only thing is the finer backgrounds of these circumstances would take a book rather than just a few simple questions, because as I indicated, I too was the same teenager as you are now, and your life, certainly as mine was then, is a lot more complex than 5 simple questions.
Yes.
And I thank you very much for your interest.
Yes.